Hey guys, sorry it's been a while. I've actually been recovering from COVID a second time. If you're a Patreon, you already know this. And if you follow me on Twitter, you probably already know this as well. It was pretty bad the second time around. It took me out for about 2-3 weeks, I think, overall. It just took a while to recover and, get back to myself. This video is not necessarily for YouTube. This is more for Patreons, but I kind of thought those of you that just watch me on YouTube might like this video too. This is just going to be a further breakdown of one of the SmackDown Shut Your Mouth Definitive Edition previews I've done. There will be more YouTube content coming. I'm just a bit busy doing stuff for Patreon and finishing off some projects and previews that I want to put out. What else is new on Patreon since I've been on YouTube? Version 2 of Just Bring It dropped, and there is a new version of 2006 out that came out about a month ago. So there you go, that's on patreon.com/ScottJay if you guys want to check that out if you haven't already. But this video is just going to be me talking a bit more, I guess, in depth as to where my head was at over the new SmackDown Shut Your Mouth Definitive Edition preview I posted. Just because it's taken a long time for me to sort of do this, and I just wanted to sort of get more of my thoughts out there, so I thought I would do it. So we're going to cut to that, and hopefully you guys enjoy. Alright, before I start, I will do a very brief breakdown on what this Definitive Edition is, even though it's been talked about to death for about the past, year and a bit on Patreon. But in case you aren't a Patreon, here's a quick rundown of what the next Definitive Edition of SmackDown Shut Your Mouth is. Okay, so this extensive project basically covers the final year and a bit of the company's time as the WWF, with the entire game being fully restored with the WWF logos, spread out into 4 versions per quarter year, 5 if you were a long-time Patreon, each containing different attires, gimmicks, sometimes arenas, title belts, and in some extreme cases, even some different backstage and outdoor imagery. If you need any more information on this, you can always check Patreon at patreon.com/ScottJay. And check out some of the older posts and screenshots if this quick rundown wasn't enough. Okay, so I always wanted to do this video breakdown. Originally, I thought before doing the post on Patreon, it was going to be a video post. But I just haven't had time since recovering from COVID. I've just been so busy catching up with everything. There just hasn't really been any time to do a video sooner than this. And as you know, I wanted to get that SmackDown Shut Your Mouth preview up at the end of last month. And even though I felt it featured a pretty extensive write-up, I still wanted to make this video, even though, the post is now, a week and change old. So I had some time and I just thought, why not do this? You're so passionate about this era or just a little before, and I have such vivid memories about wrestling and the video game industry in this time period. It's probably one of the most impactful time periods in both industry's history as well as my own life as well. So let's get stuck in. Okay, let's start with season mode, and the first thing I want to talk about is the draft cutscene, or specifically the set that Linda McMahon is sitting at. Now, it has changed from the official retail game. Obviously, there is the WWF logo right there, and as you can see by the imagery behind her, the 2 sheet posters are not what they were before, which was renders of Kurt Angle and The Rock. Instead, they're actual photos of Rock and Austin. Now, on the actual episode that aired on television, the WWF logo is black, and the sheet photos behind them, one is from Kurt Angle's entrance at SummerSlam, which I had a look through all my photo reference albums and all my magazines, if I could scan a photo, pretty much everything, and I don't have that photo. And I have pretty much everything the company released from about 1998 till at least 2004. I was very possessive of that era of wrestling. I collected pretty much everything, and I don't have that photo, but that's not the reason I didn't use it. Part of what I want with this project is to still feel like it's a game, and an official one at that. And if Ukes were given the ability to create sort of something, I guess what my mind's eye sees exactly as what they would want, this is how I think they'd do it. So I obviously use the coloured WWF logo, the red and white, because I feel like it's more gamey, it's more in touch with the official SmackDown Shut Your Mouth instead of going with the black logo. And I use photos of Rock and Austin because I felt like, one, if this were a game, those were the 2 photos you'd use, especially if the Austin walkout hadn't happened yet. You would use Rock and Austin as they were the top 2 major stars. But doubly, both of these photos were used as the actual sheet photos on this very set during episodes of the highlight shows and also on episodes of WWF Access. If you don't know what WWF Access is, you probably weren't around during 2001. It was a very short-lived show. I think it went into 2002 as well, for a very brief period of time. I enjoyed it. I loved all those types of shows where it was leaning more sports rather than, well, where it is now. But yeah, so they are officially used photos they used on that set, and I thought it was the perfect balance. So that was the idea. It was, in terms of if you were a game developer, you would use the two most prolific stars, which is Rock and Austin. Even the WWF magazines were obviously being like, Rock on one show, Austin on the other, amazing, you know, who would you choose? And then also trying to keep it real to life, these are two photos they actually used on the actual stage at various points during the year. Okay, moving on. Here, as you can see, when you select the WWF Champion in season now, it says WWF Champion, not Undisputed Champion. However, when you get the Undisputed title, obviously it says WWF Undisputed Champion. And as I've shown previously, all other belts say WWF as well. I really tried to make that texture look as official as possible, so it's a pretty close match with the WWE logo in the official game. Okay, next, as you can see, we're at the Vengeance pay-per-view in December, and Vengeance is brought to you by Lugs. I've showed this stuff off before on Patreon, such as the Royal Rumble being sponsored by Final Fantasy X, and so on and so forth. But you don't just see the sponsors at the start of the event. If they appeared on a Minitron, they are on the Minitron, but also help replace the fake adverts in the general arena. And again, to keep this feeling like a video game that came out in the 2000s, I've actually edited the title credits screen, so when it comes up with, say, licensed music or anything else, I've actually added the sponsors to the credits, just to add that little bit extra feel of authenticity. Next up, playable characters in season and the overall draft pool. Now, one thing that did irk me when the game came out was they gave you such an awesome Ric Flair model, and one of my best friends is like a crazy hardcore Ric Flair fan. He's a little older than me, but you could never use Ric Flair in season mode. He's just not in the official game for obvious story reasons. I just thought, with giving you the option of making him draftable, he's also in the superstar entry pool. Same with Vince McMahon and others that you can turn on or off. So if you don't want Ric Flair in season, you don't have to have him. But if you do want him in season, he and Vince and anyone else works fully. So they're draftable, they're playable, they appear in matches, they're booked in matches, they have superstar points, everything works perfectly. However, if you are playing as Ric Flair and you don't draft yourself to SmackDown, then, well, you're going to have a couple of cutscenes where Rick will bump into Rick and obviously have a conversation, which might be a tad awkward, or Ric Flair is losing his mind. Same with Vince if you do the same with him on SmackDown. But overall, as a video game, I think this is a super fun option to have. I think just having more characters available in the season mode that can win titles and, you know, affect sort of your playthrough of season is fun and is only a good thing because you have the option to deactivate it if you don't want it. Moving on to something minor, which is the King of the Ring trophy. Now, the King of the Ring trophy has been updated with, yes, the WWF logo. However, there are two versions of this because initially I wanted this to look like Ukes had made it, so the WWF logo just replaces the WWE logo and it looks as official as humanly possible. But also, I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have the real trophy as well with the WWF logo on the lower part of the trophy just above the King of the Ring logo? One of my other friends told me about this as well, so I ended up making another trophy as well. Not sure how I'm going to roll that out. Is there going to be a King of the Ring trophy version? I'm not sure. It might be one of the things where I put on a poll, do you want more video game or more real? Or I might just put it out. Who knows? But I made both just in case. I personally lean more towards the video game one, but then that's just because I have a very strong attachment with Ukes. I kind of think they are probably one of my favorite developers ever. I mean, they have to be, right? I've played their games for so much of my life now. We're talking majority of my life. Now, the last thing in season I want to touch on is microphones, and specifically the SmackDown microphone, because I had so many requests to re-implement the old SmackDown microphone from Trailer 1. And I did do that. I did that for one of the backstage areas, which is the corridor, which is basically the area you start in the season when you walk around, and for the SmackDown arena. But as I continued to develop this and put it together, everywhere else has the WWF scratch logo microphones. And just for the sake of uniform, for what I just feel this project is, I am going to just have the WWF logo microphone everywhere. Now, that's not to say that that SmackDown microphone won't get released. I might do a separate sort of SmackDown Arena release with the SmackDown microphone that is an optional sort of add-on for people's games. But I just think the WWF microphone is just so much more uniform. I did make a blue tick variant, but I'm not sure if even that's going to get in, because I pretty much, watched so much of it where a lot of the time when it was the WWF logo in the latter part of 2001, the early part of 2002, it is just the standard red and white logo. Moving on to something I'm super happy with, and that is the return of WWF New York. Now, as you can see here, not only is the WWF New York logo restored, but there's a whole bunch of extra things here as well. For starters, the bright lit text as well as the accompanying WWF logos now return, not to mention the outside showboard, which logos actually change depending on the version. So as you can see when I took photos here, it has the Raw 2002 logo plastered about, but in other cases, of course, it would be the Raw 2001 logo, as well as something different on the side over there. Most notably on the billboard is the official poster for WrestleMania 18. Now, this was how the billboard looked back in March of 2002, and the reason I went with this is because in every single SmackDown game up to this point, the goal is to reach WrestleMania. The final arena, essentially, you play in season is always WrestleMania, and they usually take cutscenes from whatever happened at WrestleMania that year. Usually, from SmackDowns 1 to 4, they usually have something animated from WrestleMania of that year. So it only seemed fitting to have WrestleMania 18 as the billboard during most of the year. However, if you're playing in the winter, it does change, and a lot of the advertisements change as well, and the billboard is for WWF Survivor Series. As we make our way inside, just a quick little note that the WWF carpet has now returned, but that's not what we're going to be taking a look at here, because I think I even missed this in the Patreon post. The WWF New York table place holders, the things they put on the, I can't think of what they're called now, the little things they put on the tables, which are like triangles, with the logo on. I cannot for the life of me think about this. There's no script. I'm just looking at photos and recording this right now. But yes, those are back there. If you look right behind that woman's head, there will be the WWF New York table placement thing that is in the restaurant. There's actually a multitude of posters around here. There is Unforgiven 2001, No Mercy 2001, and WWF No Way Out 2002. Not to mention, I actually put some nod to Ukes and SmackDown Shut Your Mouth in here, because this is a video game and I thought it'd be cool. I put the actual game poster that was in all magazines, inserts, everything at the time that was advertising Shut Your Mouth about 2 months right before the game came out. So here it is. Now, this image was super hard to find on the internet, so I actually had to go through my physical press folders, quite a few folders of press materials relating to video games from my time in the industry, and these would be like broadsheets which we would scan to be like, right, if this is going to go in a magazine, it would be like a back page advert or a bunch of numbers advertising a store, import shops, all kinds of things. Right, so I knew I saved the SmackDown Shut Your Mouth ad, so I actually went in, scanned it, thinking, oh yes, this is going to look awesome, and I could have probably just found some crummy photo on the internet, but I didn't. That is the actual high quality scanned poster that is of its highest quality, even though you probably can't tell here, and yes, it is in WWF New York. Fun fact here is that all 14 pay-per-view posters from King of the Ring 2001 all the way to Judgment Day 2002 are smattered all across the game in the free roam mode. So if you want, you can go looking around to see if you can find them all, which I thought was a fun extra. Now, the next thing we're looking at, you probably can't even see what I'm talking about. But okay, if you see those circular TVs that are right at the back there behind the people, there is actually a screenshot of the results of the first WWF draft. It's the results screen telling the audience which superstars are on which show. So it looks like kind of the people there are looking at the draft results. I thought that was super cool. Probably something that is not even going to be looked at, going to be completely missed. But there's loads of stuff like that in this version. I've just kind of gone pretty crazy over the last year putting this thing together. I wrote down a whole dossier the year before that of what I wanted to do, and I've kind of stuck to it religiously. Okay, now we're moving back to the arena and we're at the corridor, and now we can see something that your mind's eye might tell you was always there, but it wasn't. And that is, firstly, Stone Cold has merchandise at the merch shop. So if you can see on the corner there, the Watch shirt is now back for sale, and there are piles of them on there. Now, for those of you that are a little younger and don't know, during the game's development, Stone Cold Steve Austin walked out of the WWE, and he was absolutely right in doing so, not because he didn't want to lose to Brock Lesnar, not because the match should have been built up onto a pay-per-view, but because he was completely right. The creative had been terrible since after WrestleMania 17. Yes, in hindsight, it wasn't that bad because wrestling just gets absolutely worse afterward, but that's no excuse. Austin was used to the high bar and noticed the massive decline, as did everybody else. I mean, so many people were disappointed with the invasion. Loads of people, couldn't believe they didn't do Rock Austin at SummerSlam for the title, which was what they were hinting to, and what they were planning that whole time till the invasion took place. I mean, even the poster was so evident that was where they were going to go, and they changed direction, and then they made Kurt Angle a copy of Steve Austin. It was pretty bad. I remember, like I said in my last video, I have a whole book which I wrote in my last year of high school, basically changing everything that happened in 2001, sort of rewriting it, delaying things to try and make sense of it, and just, I suppose, give it the correct outcomes. Anyhow, nevertheless, because of this walkout, Stone Cold's presence in the game was absolutely nullified, and we were very lucky because even though, yes, there are some cutscenes in the season that still remain, there was one in particular which I have a build where it is enabled, so I'm just going to copy that over and make sure it works on this game. But the what scene that is in the trailer is actually even in the retail game, it's just disabled, but it's not in prior versions before retail. And, the reason that is because they were really trying to lessen Stone Cold's presence in the game. And because it was Stone Cold that left, it was unthinkable on actual real TV shows. Now, this is something that sort of none of your journalists would know that are on the internet these days, because they didn't really watch wrestling back then. A lot of them may have done casually, that are experts now, and they watch all the bad stuff, but they ain't got a damn clue about what actually went on in the Attitude Era. Here's some actual stuff that happened, which is during the time of his walkout, the company was so adamant. I don't know if that was because Vince McMahon was so angry, but those Watch shirts, even though they were hot sellers, they were giving them away. I remember people posting photos from house shows where the Watch shirts were on like a stand, and they were like $4, $3, just trying to get rid of so much Austin merchandise. They did like major clearance on the Stone Cold like what DVD packages, because back in the day they used to do superstar packages. So say when The Rock's Just Bring It DVD came out, you could get a package, which firstly, the first package they did came with a Team Bring It shirt, that, and I think a keychain and something else. And then the second package they did of that DVD was you could buy it and you'd get the Just Bring It with the USA flag shirt. Austin had the same thing. You get a What shirt with the What DVD and some other stuff. And even Shop Zone and Euroshop as well. Oh God, they put those things on clearance. I mean, because at the time it really didn't look like he was going to come back. Like that first maybe 2 to 3 months. Of course, things settled down after, but in the early part, especially, and that was during the game's development, it really looked bad. So much so that I remember journalists were calling THQ to get updates on the Steve Austin situation. Now, everybody already knew that Scott Hall wasn't going to make the cut for SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. Side note, I do know there is an official model for Scott Hall now, and there were a few others that were sculpted that just didn't make the cut. Same with Just Bring It. I found this out only a few months ago, which was kind of crazy. But anyway, back on topic, Stone Cold Steve Austin, everybody had sort of made their peace with other people not making the cut for games or whatever. But this was Austin. This was crazy. It would be like not having Rock or Austin in the game is just unthinkable. So, a lot of journalists were calling around to make sure that he would still appear in the game. and THQ were like assuring you that yes, he would be in the game, because THQ did have to reassure people that he would still be a part of the game, which, you know, I mean, thank goodness he was. But yes, the watch shirts are here, which is absolutely awesome. Now, a small addition in the corridor is that the foam hands now have the WWF logo. I remember when getting this game, one of the most fun things about it is just the extra thought of that, say, early 2000s video game where it was, you know, PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox was full of wonder. It was full of, we're pushing what we can do here. And Ukes was always about adding fun stuff too. Yes, you have the realism, but, you know, pick up the RVD double thumbs and do the pose, or, you know, just really cool fun stuff you could do like that in these games. The snowball fights, being able to get in a car or on the motorcycle and drive around. A lot of this stuff is lost. I mean, part of that is also because wrestling is, you know, the characters in wrestling don't have any of this stuff. They don't have any association with anything. So it's, you know, it's super bland. So, you know, you can't necessarily do that in a video game now. But even in that new AEW video game, you are seeing sort of Ukes trademarks like their minigames. And this is just something I loved back then. The ability to just go pick up things like the foam hand, or the foam watch sign, whatever. Anyway, they have the WWF logos back, which is really good. I thought it was real fun. Just fun little extra. Now, let's talk about arenas. This will be the last thing we talk about today. So I've often been asked about the prototype SmackDown arena. It is in with the correct Minitron and everything. That is basically the early SmackDown Fist arena with the different Minitron. It's in the game, works perfectly. But we've also had Sunday Night Heat move back to SmackDown. And if you look at this, their Minitron is very different, as just like on TV, post 9/11, it has the flowing American flag on the Minitron during the matches. At the moment, I haven't changed the spinning, heat drop, which is sort of the Minitron during entrances at the moment. But I am going to change it to the scrolling heat text, Sunday Night Heat text that actually happened, say, from September 2001 on Heat onwards. This was very important to me, I think. I like the fact that they did this. I thought it was a cool move. I even liked when they had sort of American flag merchandise. Now, I didn't agree with invading other countries and things like that. Not getting this political at all. I'm just saying, or in humanitarian, whatever you want to call it. I'm just saying I thought the WWE, you know, as a younger person watching how they handled a tragic event, that was one time where I felt they sort of, you know, tried to sort of comfort their audience and put a blanket of comfort on, hey, just sit down and enjoy this, because we're going to keep, you know, doing what we do best. And I wanted that represented in here. I remember not liking that, because you didn't have Velocity yet, that Heat was just moved to the new Raw set, so I always wanted to move it back to the SmackDown one. So now it is, and that's how I wanted it. So I hope you enjoy that, especially with the flowing American flag and the Minitron during matches. I think that's really cool. And sort of just perfect for the roster you have, especially the lower card roster. Alright, that's it for today, because it is boiling hot. It is like crazy hot up here. I'm dying with like this computer on and everything else. Right, I will do another sort of preview in time on Patreon, and then from there, probably talk over it a bit more. I think I'd do another one of these videos. I don't know if this will be a thing on YouTube or not, but yeah, just sort of showing a few more things. There is going to be some behind the scenes E3 2002 videos included in the next goodie bag. This is like THQ did not show SmackDown Shut Your Mouth publicly. They had like a few public kiosks, but they had like a whole behind the scenes event for SmackDown Shut Your Mouth that I luckily have some videos of with them, with superstars, with other marketing people and press people as well. So there's a lot of Shut Your Mouth stuff I sort of want to gradually put out as we work towards this release. Right, anyway, I will be back on YouTube doing some other stuff very, very shortly. Until then, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that like button. If you didn't, please hit that like button. If you aren't already, please hit that subscribe button. If you can support me on Patreon, please do at patreon.com/ScottJay. Until next time, stay safe from the heat, take care, and I'll see you very soon.